Okay guys, so as you can see we already have almost finished with this project. We have already the king, queen, the bishop, the rook and the pawn already made. The only thing that we're missing is the knight. And for that, let's go ahead to our front view, and we're going to be using a totally different method for this one. As you remember, we have been using the splines to create an actually a symmetrical object like the pawn. We grab the spline, the outline of the spline, then we rotate that spline like 360 degrees to get a three-dimensional image of the pawn. But as you might imagine, this is not going to work with the knight. So what we're going to do is actually let's going to enter into the expert mode so we can have a little bit more space, and we're going to create the shape, the outline of the knight as we did before with all the other pieces. But in this case, as you are seeing, actually what I'm doing is that I'm dragging the mouse to create those curved lines, and I'm gonna explain in a few seconds how that works very quickly actually, because that particular option, it can be modified to actually behave as you want. So we have the basic shape. I'm not including the ear in this because actually I'm just creating the outline. We're gonna be doing that a little bit later. So as you can see, we have the basic shape, and I wanted to explain that actually you can actually change the way this when you're creating the line, the way that it behaves. The initial type is actually when you click. So every time you click, you're using the corner option, as you can see here. And the drag type is when you drag the mouse, then you get this kind of smooth, and it is because of this here. You can select corner to get always very sharp edges. You can select smooth to create curves, or you can select Bezier. The difference between Bezier and smooth is that when you're using the Bezier, when you enter into that particular spline into the vertex mode, you will see that the Bezier ones, they have these handles. If you use the smooth selection, then it will be a curve, but it will not have the handles in which you can actually manipulate that at all. So that's why I use Bezier, because it usually allows me a little bit more flexibility. And in this case, we already have our basic outline. We're going to actually move this around to match a little bit more what we need. As you can see, we have very nice shape here. I'm going to convert this to a Bezier and this one as well, so we can actually get a rounded part in here. This we're going to put a smooth, maybe move it down a little bit. And as you can see, I'm just simply doing the same as we did before, but in this case we will not be using the same modifier as we did before because of the reason that I explained. So first of all, what we're going to be using in this case, we're going to be using the refine and connect option. By right clicking, you have this particular command here. It might also be found here on the command panel on the right side in refine. You select connect here and select refine. It's the same, but as I mentioned before, I usually do not use this that much. I do want to use the fillet option to create a little fillet there. That's it. And let's go ahead and continue. What we're gonna do is that we're gonna create lines inside this particular shape that we're gonna be using to add a little bit of detail. I'm not gonna enter into very realistic detail like to match the reference image, because it has a lot of details as you can see, but I'm gonna just go ahead and make a basic, for example, this particular kind of pushed mesh that we have in there. That's what I'm gonna try to imitate a little bit, not the whole thing. But let's go ahead and just simply select the refine connect. And as you click on a vertex, you're gonna get this particular message saying that there is a vertex already, if you want to just refine it or if you want to actually connect. I'm gonna select do not show that again, because every time you click on it, it's gonna show up, and I'm gonna select the option connect only. What that's gonna do is that actually when I click on two vertices and right click, we're gonna get a line in between. If you select the option refine, what it is going to do is that it's going to create another vertex right next to it, and that's not exactly what I want. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm just going to add more lines to add more detail. The more you have, the more detail you can create, and I'm going to do it in a very quick way. As you can see, I clicked in one of the splines that we already created, and what it did is that it created a vertex in there. So that's very useful for the purposes that we're going to be doing. And I'm going to be talking about why are we doing this and some things that we have to have in consideration when we are doing this. At the end, when I finish creating the lines that I need, I'm going to be applying the surface modifier, and that will allow me to actually have kind of let's say it like skin on this particular spline. That is the one that we're going to be using for creating the three-dimensional object. In this case, I want to add this part here, which is pushed in, and for that I need some vertices and lines in there. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go ahead and create a line that follows this way up to down. There you go. And I believe with this is going to be okay. We can continue adding as much as we want, but as I mentioned, I'm going to try to keep it simple in this case. One of the things that we have to be having all the time in mind when we are going to apply the surface modifier on a surface like this, in this kind of splines and stuff, we have to verify that we don't have 5 edges where there's a patch and where there's a face. In this case, that is going to become a face later on. So we have 5 vertices, and that's something that we don't want. You can fix it very quickly by creating a triangle, but in this case I created it in the wrong way. Let's refine again. Here, click on the vertex. You might want to have 4 vertices or only 3. Those are quads or tris, and that's what we're going to be using in this case for the surface modifier. This is going to be, I believe, enough to show the actually the example that I want to the information that I want to bring along. And after this is done, let me try, yeah, let's leave it that way. So what we're gonna do first, let's go ahead and apply the surface modifier that I was talking about. You are not seeing anything right now because we are actually on the front view only in wireframe, but when you go to a perspective view where I have the smooth and highlights, you can see that we have this black shape. That is happening because we have to flip the normals, and what that does is that actually the face is on the other side of the screen, and when the light hits that particular face, you can see the color. In this case, there is no face here, you don't get any colors. When you flip the normals, you get the same result but on the other side. So now that we have the surface modifier, let's go ahead and show how we're going to create a three-dimensional object out of this spline. We're going to go ahead and select the object, go to the lines, and select number 1 for the vertices. We're going to select the ones in the middle in this case. And if we press T for top view, we're just going to go ahead and push that out a little bit. And with this, we already started creating the three-dimensional object that we were looking for. To show you that, let's go to the front view again. You're not seeing much here, but when we select the button Show End Result, this is what we get. So as you're seeing, let's go ahead and do something. Let's go ahead and select this, select Alt Q, so we are in actually just this object alone. It is isolation mode. And now that we have this, you can see that even though it doesn't look really as we want, but we are starting to get a three-dimensional object out of splines. So let's go ahead and select again the vertices, and now is where the work starts. Actually, we're getting a small problem here, and it is because we have this line in between and stuff. So let's go and try to fix that by adding more points. And you might see right away that we lose some patches, and it is because of what I mentioned before. We have 5 vertices here and the surface modifier is not going to create a surface in a place where you have more than 4 vertices. So that's why we had to do that before. And now that we continue going down on then we right click, and there you go, we right away get the surface when we finish, because those are quads now. So the way that we're going to be modeling this up is we're going to select vertices, and we're going to just simply push them in and out to create the details that we want. But in this case, sometimes we want the vertex to stay in a specific place, but we just want to modify the curve. For that, we're going to convert that particular vertex into a Bezier corner. And as you can see, we get handles right away. Now we can move the handles, and we move the handles alone. And as you can see, the vertex is going to stay there, but we can move the handles by themselves. So as you can see, this is the way that we're going to be modeling. And as I mentioned, that this kind of modeling can take a little bit of time, especially when you're not sure how this works and you're not very experienced in this kind of modeling. But for the sake of time, I will not make it too difficult. I'm going to go ahead and create the basic shape that we need. We're just gonna drag some of the vertex a little bit more this way, and that way we're just going to go ahead and create the basic shape of the knight. After we finish this, after I finish doing this vertex, when we finish creating the shape that we want, I'm going to show you how we can actually convert this to the other side. And this is where the handles come handy. Look at this. We're going to grab these 3 vertices, we're going to convert them to Bezier corners. And now, when you push one of the handles in, you create this pushed in surface. And that is exactly what we were looking for. Actually, that's exactly what we want in this particular case, because we want some parts of the mesh to be pushed in and some others to be actually pushed out. And as you can see, is exactly what we needed. I'm gonna push this out a little bit. I'm gonna select those vertices again, so I can create the look that I'm looking for. Seems to be that we have to select the way that I want to push this up. And maybe you have noticed, but I'm not really following the reference image at this point. I'm actually doing something by heart, something that what I consider fine for me at the moment. And if you want to go ahead and resemble a little bit more, it is not a problem. You can go ahead and do that. But at this point, I'm just doing this because I just want to show how this works more than actually creating a very detailed image. By this, as you can see, the more vertices you have, the more details you can add, and that's the point of this kind of modeling technique. It is called the patch modeling, and the reason is because, for example, let me grab one of the vertices in here. In there we have several vertices, and if I push one out, you can see how that patch breaks. So in general, you have to make sure that actually you select by dragging a rectangle, so you can select all the vertices together, because there's not only one in there. There's 2 vertices, one for the line that goes vertically and the other one for the line that goes horizontally. So in this case, you want to make sure that you're selecting both vertices, and you know that you're selecting both because you get 4 handles instead of only 2. And then, as I mentioned, you're actually modeling on patches, you're not modeling in the whole object, but you're actually modeling one patch at a time. So with this in mind, let me just finish up by creating a little bit more detail, just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and convert these to Bezier corners, and I'm just going to go ahead and move up these handles until I get the image that I want. That's it. Let's just go ahead and leave it that way up till now. Later on, and actually when you have more time, then you just go ahead and add the ear. You can add the eyes and stuff like that. But now let me concentrate on something else. We're gonna go ahead and add the modifier. Let's go to mesh editing and go to symmetry. And as you can see, you get a double image. But what I want to do, actually let's put it on top of the surface modifier. And what I want to do, it is not on the x-axis that I want to mirror it, but in the z-axis, so we can get this three-dimensional look. But and this is where I want to actually grab the attention. Let's go ahead and enter to the mirror and move the mirror itself until we get what I want. So I want to show something. Look how the corners are at the moment, and that is because of how the handles in the corner are selected. Actually, how the handles in the corner are at the moment. And this is what I wanted to actually talk about right now before we continue. Let's turn off symmetry for a second. Let's go to the line and let's select the handles of the corners. First off, let me make sure that all of them are actually Bezier corners, the same as this in here, Bezier corners. So the outline shape, I want to make sure that they're Beziers, and after I have those done, what I'm going to do is that, for example, this particular curve here ends up drastically there. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to grab the handle and in some ways pull it up so it doesn't end there, but it actually looks like it's going to continue. And when I add the symmetry modifier to this, it is going to create the illusion that that it is not a sharp edge, but actually a like a very smooth curve in there. And this is something that it is very interesting to know, because it comes quite handy in not only this kind of modeling, but in other situations in which you have a spline, you have some vertices, and you apply like this kind of symmetry modifier, and this is going to help you out when you are doing this kind of job. So in general, I'm gonna try to move these corners. Sometimes you have to move on the X and Y direction instead of the Z and Y. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting exactly what I need. Sometimes it can be a little bit more painful than it looks. So as I mentioned, this kind of modeling, it can take a little bit of time, but I'm trying to just show the idea on how this works. Yeah, it is not allowing me to go up, which is what I wanted to do. Let me see. That is not exactly what I'm looking for. Okay. And that I do it with all of them. Let me check how the thing is going. What we're gonna do is that we're gonna select the up to the top, and as you can see, let me show you here again what I mentioned before, it is not looking so sharp anymore, and that's what we're actually playing with right now. I'm grabbing the vertices, grabbing those handles, and creating the shape that I'm looking for by just actually moving this up a little bit more. So I'm gonna continue doing this. Let me make sure this is a Bezier. Yes. When you don't see the handles, it is maybe because of the patch itself. So I just simply go ahead and turn off the show end result. And this one does not have the handle for the horizontal line because we have it here. It's well, not there, but in this case we need is the vertical one, not the horizontal. So as you can see, this kind of work, it is a little bit demanding sometimes, and it takes a little bit of time, and this is just for this kind of just a curve. We're actually just adjusting the curve, and we're not actually talking about when you're adding detail to the mesh. So you have to know that this modeling technique, you should use it when you think it is the best way to go. If you try to make the night, for example, using, for example, let's see, if you want to go ahead and create first a box and then from there on create the shape that you're looking for. Um, I haven't tried myself, but I believe it can be a little bit more difficult. Sometimes it can be easier in some circumstances, but in some other cases it can be that it can take a little bit longer because of the type of shape that this is. Sometimes it is just easier to go ahead and create a shape with the spline and then go ahead and modify it this way than actually going and starting with a box and then going ahead and creating the things from zero. I mean, like using extrude and stuff like that, like with it with the board. So at this point, just going ahead, fixing one by one until I get the look that I want. So you can see we have several handles in here, more than before, and it is because in here there are several vertices. We have 3 vertices converging there, so you have to go ahead for all of them and do the same procedure. And this is not working as I wanted here. There you go. And I believe we are already on the top. So with that, you can see that we're almost getting what we wanted, except for this part in here, because we pulled the handles that also control how that mesh looks in there, and it can be a little bit problematic. That's why you have to always check on your results to make sure that you're not actually doing something that you did not want. So I believe that is okay until now. Up to now, that is fine. I would say that it looks a little bit too thin on the sides. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab these vertices and we're gonna move them up. Actually, I think I grabbed a handle and pull it out a little bit. There you go. Now with you, I wanted to grab this handle, and I believe it belongs to this vertex here, but those vertex are not Bezier yet. So let me grab the handle now and create the shape that I'm looking for. Okay. Thing is that I think that it looks a little bit too okay. Move this out a little bit. What happens with those 2 vertices is that they don't have any corner. They don't have handles for the corners itself, so they are a little bit complicated to deal with. For that, what we can do is that we can actually use the Refine Connect option to connect these 2 vertices there, and the same for the other one here. So now we get a Bezier corner and we have a handle here that we can actually push around, as well as this one here. Let's convert it to Bezier corner and we have this handle here. Okay. In this case, anyways, I'm gonna leave that this way because I'm gonna make a hole in there using a pro boolean comma operand, as we did before with the bishop. And with this basic shape, let me go ahead and finish that up here. Let me make sure that I'm drawing the handle that I want. And this for the eye, maybe, kind of. There you go, we have a basic shape. And now we're gonna go ahead and do something different. We're gonna create the hair of the horse. For that, let me go ahead and we're gonna add in here a patch modifier. Edit patch, we select faces, and this is the thing. We're going to select, let me see something. How are you dividing it? No, that's not exactly what I want. Let me delete this, put it on top of surface. I'm gonna edit patch, and now we have the division that I wanted. So the edit patch, you see, we can select these faces individually, but I don't want to select that much. So what I'm gonna do is that actually on the line, let me take this off, and we're gonna create a thin line between here all the way down. We're gonna connect that because we're gonna select those as faces. Let me delete that first and add it again. Modifier, edit patch. There you go. So we're gonna select the faces. Go ahead and select and see those faces. And what we're gonna do with you is that we're gonna right click on it and we're gonna extrude the patch. And that way we're gonna get this. Let me see. It doesn't look that cool right now yet because it's bent. But, and this is where it becomes very fun, when we go up, this is what we get. Now we just have to close this together. I'm gonna use vertex to close those together, and then it is gonna look a little bit better. Let's go ahead and go to the patch, and in this case we're gonna go to the vertex level, select those vertices, and we're just gonna move them inside. We can, select show end result. I'm gonna go until here, grab only these ones here, put them up here, and that way we get the basic shape for the hair of the knight. So we're just doing this, putting this all together. I have a little issue here. Maybe I pulled this a little bit too much. Let's see. I believe it's this one here. Let me see. Yep. I have to make sure that I pulled one of the vertices in a very, it seems to be that too much. We can try to use the handles to fix that, or you can try going with the vertex X itself. Let's just go ahead and pull it back until the point there where we didn't have the problem. Let's finish with this at the bottom. So now that I move this in, I check around, and the same for this one here. I check that I'm not creating any problem, and there you go. We're creating some problems from time to time. So it is good that we're checking all the time. Can move this a little bit more. There you go. Maybe. Let me see. There you go. This one has a handle as well. That is not the handle that I was looking for. I need to move that handle in the Y direction. There you go. That looks a little bit better. I have to close it a little bit more. Just enough so that we don't get that issue there. But it seems to be that we're having the issue anyways. There you go. I believe that closes that there. We're closing everything almost without issues. Let's see here. I'm gonna bring this together. And it is because maybe of this handle. I want to bring them together. There you go. So as you can see, it is a matter of practice, and it is a matter of patience, because this kind of modeling technique requires patience in general. But we are getting actually the result that we want by moving not only the vertex but actually also the handles. You get exactly what you need, and there you go. We have a basic shape for the knight, and it is looking pretty good. I believe it is looking very good. We can actually grab the handles in here and pull them a little bit back because it is too chubby, I would say. So let's see. Sometimes you have to verify that you're not being restrained by the gizmo. Sometimes you are restrained by the gizmo in only two directions or even only one, and that will make your life a little bit difficult sometimes. So it is better that you are aware of how your gizmo is working at that particular moment. And after this, I believe we're done with the shape. So even though it is not a totally detailed shape, you can see that it is enough for us to say that it's a knight. I'm not worrying too much in here because I'm gonna make a hole there, and we're still having a little bit of issues here. Maybe here, let me grab the line, show the end result, select this up, and as you can see, it is because of here this vertex and probably the handles themselves. They're creating a small issue here. Let me go ahead and turn this off. I mean this here. This handle is too far away probably. We're getting some jagged edges here. No, I need it far away. It's not that the one that I need to work on. Let's go to the detach here. Okay, so this is one of the handles that is working on this here. Again, it's just a matter of working with the handles and the vertices to get the look that you're looking for. Let's just put it down a little bit. Grab the handle in here. Whoops, that's not the one that I wanted. And that is not the one either. There's one in here, one handle that is making the mess, and I'm actually having troubles finding it. So let's go ahead, leave it how it was first, and then move that down then. See? Here. Nope. Okay then. Well, for the sake of time, let's leave it that way. It is not actually creating a big issue. Let's just do this. It looks like Yoshi, if you are seeing this. So, well, now what we can do is that we can actually, we are going to go ahead and create the bottom of it, and then we're going to attach those two together. For that, let's go ahead and go out of that shape. I'm going to go ahead and create a line, and this is actually exactly the same as before. We're just going to go ahead and create the line just to create the outside of the shape. I'm gonna close it there. I'm just going to go ahead and move this up. And right now, as I created this without the snap tool, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna enter into the segment mode, and I'm gonna select the scale tool. And when you move into the X axis, in this case, I'm gonna actually line that up. Those two vertices, I'm gonna line those up so it is actually a straight line, as well as this one here. In this case, I'm gonna use the Y axis, and that way I'm making sure that those are actually straight lines. After I have that, I'm gonna continue making the same as I did before. I'm just simply going to go ahead and select for the vertices. I'm gonna go ahead and use the commands for fillet and make the curvature how I need it. In this case, this is what I get. I'm not actually paying too much attention right now to detail, just making it very quickly so we can actually attach those two together. Let's go ahead and add the lathe modifier. And as you can see, we have the base already done. Now I'm gonna go out of them, select them both. Actually, let me not out of the selection yet. Now I'm gonna both convert them to editable mesh. In this case, I don't convert them to editable poly because this part, the upper part, would cause a lot of issues when you convert them to editable poly. And after we have it as an editable mesh, we're just simply going to go ahead and select the option to attach another geometry, in this case the bottom. As you can see, now actually I'm going to go ahead out of the editable mesh option. We're going to go out of it, and let's go ahead, and as you can see, actually they're attached. The problem with the bottom in this case, actually, let's go ahead, go back a few steps. What is happening is that here the lathe is not 360 degrees as it should. So now we're gonna flip the normals. Let me see. Yep, there you go. And now we're gonna select both and convert them to editable poly. Sorry, in this case, yeah, you see right away you get those issues. That's why you have to, in this case, in this particular case, to editable mesh. And let's go ahead and attach those two again. Yep, there you go. We have a knight. You can add a little bit more detail on the bottom, but that is up to you. In this case, I'm just go ahead and leave it that way. I'm just gonna enter actually into the sub-object mode and actually line those a little bit better. But in general, if you want to add more detail, that is up to you. I'm just going to go ahead, exit the isolation mode, and now what I'm gonna do is that I'm just going to copy this up. For that, I'm just gonna use the move command. I'm just gonna select this, move them. We have a copy already, and for this I'm just gonna copy it 7 times so we can have 8 pawns. That's how the game goes. So we have 7. We hit OK, and there you go. We have actually a basic chess set from scratch. And now I'm just simply after this, you just have to merge these into the board as the board that we did at the beginning. Usually you can actually do all of this while having the board hidden, so you can actually go ahead and create the things in one file. I decided to do it in 2 files just because I like to use the merge command and make sure that I wanted to show that. So let's go ahead and save this up, and when you open the chess set, actually in this case, you just go ahead and open it, and you select the option to import and select the option to merge. I wanted to show this command because what happens is that when you merge two things, I want you to pay attention to something in particular. When you merge something, this is what you get. The board, it is a little bit smaller than the pieces. So sometimes you have to make sure that actually when you merge objects, you are gonna have some issues sometimes. In this case, it is the size. In other cases, the position. Maybe sometimes the things are in another position. And I just wanted to show that because it is good to have the idea of actually creating things in other. You can create, for example, a scene in which you have a whole living room and stuff, and then you want to create another scene in which you just need some things that you already created. Then it is cool just to simply import them and just merge them. And I'm just simply gonna skip this step in here, and I'm just gonna open the chess set number 1. What I did is that I actually copied the files. I actually copied the, let me show this up here. I just copied the pieces of the other side, and I applied two materials. I actually applied a black material to one side, a white material to the other. And in this case, I just, with the line, I just created this set in here. This is a 180 degrees lather on a line. Then I convert it to editable poly and put a turbo smooth on it. And this is gonna serve to actually reflect the light a little bit. And I just put one basic light in there, as you can see. And after that, when you just simply go ahead and render this up, let's just simply go ahead and give it a quick render here. I'm just gonna select this and render it. As you can see, we're a pretty decent image of a chessboard. Actually, you can see now the details on the board that we could not see at the beginning. But as you can see, we get a very nice detailed chessboard. And actually, if you take the time, we did not require that much time to do that. Maybe the knight was the one that took most of the time, but creating the board was in a few minutes, and as well as the other pieces. Then just copying them up and actually aligning them would take a few minutes as well. But this is a very simple project in which you can create this basic shape with different methods. I just wanted to show that you can use the box modeling technique to create this kind of objects. Like for example, this table was made by extruding, chamfering, and those commands. While actually making the pieces, we used totally different techniques, and we actually arrived to the place that we wanted. So with this, I'm going to finish this tutorial, and I hope that we see each other in another tutorial later on. And thanks guys for watching.